Welcome back to the satellite. I'm Karen. Today I want to talk a little bit about one of my favorite book series, The Lord of the Rings. I just recently reread Lord of the Rings over the winter break. It's something that I used to do quite frequently back when I was a young teen and into my early 20s. Pretty much read it every winter break. But since my 20s, kind of have done it intermittently, probably about every 5 to 10 years. So it's become less frequent, but I find that um, I still get a lot out of reading it. These books have become deeply embedded in my subconscious, so they're very important to me. But I still manage every time I read them to come away with something new. Um, I don't know if it's that maybe my perspective has changed, or I'm able to just find something new in them. But I always find them really rewarding to read. And this time around, really focused a lot on Gandalf. Really felt drawn to his role as sort of an advisor and protector for Middle Earth. So I don't know if that says a lot about me getting older, maybe so, but I enjoyed coming at it from that direction this time. And now I know there's a ton of folks out there who have whole channels devoted to Lord of the Rings, who are really experts in Tolkien lore and understand the background and all that. I'm not an expert. I'm just somebody who enjoys reading about it. So I'm not going to talk today about um, the deep metaphorical meaning of Lord of the Rings. What I do want to talk about, though, is something that I found really interesting over the years, and as somebody who goes into bookstores and likes to look at old books, um, all the different versions, the paperback versions of Lord of the Rings. There's been quite a few of them. Now, when I started reading Lord of the Rings, well, first I read The Hobbit when I was pretty young. Um, I was definitely influenced by my older brother, Steve. So shout out to Steve. Um, he had read the books, and then I had read The Hobbit. And I think it was probably Christmas when I was about 11 years old that I got this wonderful set, this Ballantine set with the gold foil, which I still think, and obviously I'm biased, but I think that this is probably the most beautiful set. I love the um, the slipcase that comes with it. Now, this one actually features um, all three books plus The Hobbit. And I think one of the things that really knocked me out about this as a kid, and actually still today, is finding out that J.R.R. Tolkien himself painted the covers to these books. I thought that was just fantastic because, um, he had already created this incredible world with all these characters, these different peoples, their languages, their history. And then to find out that he also painted these covers, I don't know, to me, it was just amazing that, he did everything, right? He wrote the books, he created all the worlds, and then he also created the covers to these. So when I found that out, I just thought, wow, this guy did it all. He created it all. And of course, on the back, we have the pretty famous picture of J.R.R. Tolkien. So these were the ones that I was reading as a kid and still probably think of as the most exciting set. Now, those came out in, I believe, um, uh, 73. I think I got those a little bit later. And then a few years later came the Silmarillion. Now, I will say that I read this book once. um, it, interesting in a sense. I found it kind of like a dry history book, but I know a lot of folks have gone out there and read it over and over again and are thrilled with it. And maybe I will give it another try. We'll see. Now, one thing that did have really massive geek appeal to me and others was this complete guide to Middle Earth. So this is from 1979. And before the internet, books like this and the Star Trek Encyclopedia or the Star Trek Concordance, this is all we had to refer to. And I can tell you, I looked at this thing a lot. You can tell by all the bent corners and things. And of course, it has this beautiful cover by the brothers Hildebrandt. Man, the brothers Hildebrandt, they were the guys, let me tell you, back in the day. Every Christmas, you wanted that Brothers Hildebrandt Tolkien calendar. And I think even now, even after the films have come out, when I think in my mind's eye about Lord of the Rings and the stories, um, I can see stuff from the films, but I also see a lot of the artwork from the brothers Hildebrandt. And you know what else I also see, and some people would be surprised probably, the Ralph Bakshi animated film. I know a lot of people have some issues against it. It's only half finished, and the rotoscoping. Some people are not on board with the rotoscoping, but those character designs were really cool. And if you haven't seen Ralph Bakshi's Lord of the Rings, you need to check it out. So over the years, though, there's been a lot of different covers for the Lord of the Rings. And I don't have a lot of those books, but I do have a couple of books on hand that I wanted to share. Now, this first series that I'm going to show you are these Ace paperbacks, and these were unauthorized. Ace had found a loophole, a copyright loophole, that allowed them to print the first paperback versions of Lord of the Rings in the US. And these were like insanely successful. And so then that led Tolkien and I think it was Houghton Mifflin and Ballantine to go ahead and put together their own paperback editions, which essentially drove the Ace editions out of business. But you will find these Ace books in a lot of bookstores, and to wit. So this book was my late uncle's book. He had a number of different sci-fi and fantasy paperbacks, which came into my hands later in life. And this is actually, it's really cool. I believe this is the original 1965 edition. If you open it up here, you can see in the first page, the inscription from the ring, which is really cool. And then on the title page here, there's another drawing, and I should say the artist on this book is, I believe his name is Jack Gunn. And so we have a picture of Treebeard with Mary and Pip. So very nice artwork on here. We've got obviously the Nazgul right there. So my uncle actually had the Return of the King that came with this set, or that was part of this, but I believe it perished in the great mold disaster. I lost several books to a mold problem years ago. Anyway, the less said about that, the better. Now, I'm going to move over here and show you some slides of some different books. But first, actually, I do have a book I can show you. I just got this recently. So this is from a 1965 Ballantine version of the books that was put out. This is the ones that Tolkien was associated with, okay? And this is one that I picked up recently in a bookstore. This is a 1971 version, though. So, and that printing, let's see, it was the 36th printing. So this book was printed over and over again over the years, right? Once they started printing it here in the US. The covers on this Ballantine series were by Barbara Remington. Now, Barbara Remington was a fairly prolific fantasy artist at the time. However, she only got some brief summaries of the Tolkien books. And so in a moment, I'll show you some slides of her covers. But basically, with the exception of this one, which I think shows, Mount Doom, um, they seem to have like nothing to do with the books because she just didn't know what was going on in the books. And Tolkien was kind of miffed about it. So we'll switch over and look at the slides and you'll get a chance to see what those look like. So before we jump to those Ballantine books, let's take a quick look at the Ace books. So all three of them are shown here. You see that Two Towers one that I have, and then you can see the Fellowship of the Ring and the Return of the King. The Return of the King looks especially nice. The Fellowship, Gandalf might look a little different than what you might think of him. So as we move on to the Ballantine books here, you can see kind of what got Tolkien in an uproar. And actually, the cover of the Fellowship initially had a lion on the cover. He was like, remove that immediately. There's no lion in the book. So I will say that Barbara Remington has a very distinct style. Almost, I don't know, it's not psychedelic, but it's a unique style. I don't think it's unappealing. And the whole thing was designed as a triptych. So, and you can see that when you've got them lined up here. So I think it's a really cool design. It doesn't necessarily feel like it has a lot to do with the story, but I think it's appealing. And, if I find them in the wild, I will pick them up. Now, when we move into 1981, we have the next set that was considered to be the Silver Jubilee, which things will get a little bit weird time-wise here. These have art by Daryl Sweet. And I have to say, I haven't seen too many of these in the bookstores. I'm not sure why, but I just haven't. I don't know. I think they're fine. They just don't really grab me too much. Clearly they're depicting moments out of the story. But yeah, it's I don't know if this is what you came to Tolkien from and this is your favorite, apologies. For me, it's just not that exciting a look. We move on to 1987 and what the Tolkien website that I was consulting called the 50th anniversary edition. So we go from 81, which is the Silver Jubilee, right? That's 25 years, and now to 87 with the 50th anniversary. It makes no sense to me. I don't know. I'm probably missing something in there somewhere. But these are by Michael Herring. Probably, I don't know, maybe my least favorite. I think the thing that's really throwing me off is the really super pudgy Bilbo on The Hobbit. It's just, I would never have envisioned Bilbo that way. Okay, so I'm looking at that going, what? So yeah, probably, yeah, my least favorite. I do see these out in the bookstores though, from time to time. So yeah, you'll see these if you go out and you look at different used bookstores. I see them popping up frequently. And then in 2000, we got some new covers and a new publisher. So Del Rey began publishing the books. Now these covers here are the British editions. The art, however, is the same. The art was by Ted Naismith. The packaging was just a little different on the US covers. And so, again, some nice depictions of scenes from the different stories. I think these are fine and certainly you can tell, what's going on, who the characters are and everything. So, these are an assortment of the covers we've gotten for paperbacks over the years. Then things really changed when the Peter Jackson films came out. And at that point, we got a lot of photograph covers from the movie. So I will admit that after I saw the films, I wanted to read the books again, but my books have been falling apart. They were just it was at a point where I knew I think I actually picked them up and a page started to come out. I was like, I can't read this. So I had to go out and buy a set. And of course, what was available out there, well, it was all movie tie-in stuff. Now, this sort of bothered me. I was like, I don't want to buy a movie tie-in. I don't want to buy something that's just promoting the film. And I did love the films, so don't get me wrong, but for some reason in my head, I was like, I want like real Tolkien, whatever that is. I want real Tolkien. I don't want the movie stuff. But these books actually are really nice. And I noticed a difference when I went and looked on a couple of websites. I think if you buy the paperbacks individually, there is a wide array of options, and they're mostly different characters. So if you want to buy Frodo on your fellowship, you can get Frodo, you can get Gandalf, you can get Legolas. So there's a lot of different characters out there that you can buy. But with this set, it seemed like it was a little more scenic in design. So for Fellowship, we get Gandalf. We get Gandalf wandering across the countryside. There goes Mithrandir. There he goes, racing around. For the Two Towers, we get Sam and Frodo in the, I don't know, Emyn Muil? I don't know. They're looking across. There's Mordor. Oh, Mr. Frodo. And one of the things I really like about these books is that they have some very big and detailed maps. And that's always been an important thing for me with Lord of the Rings. I mean, Lord of the Rings is what made me want to see maps in books, and I can get excited when I see maps in books. And so these books, they're large size paperbacks, and they have some really big maps, which is cool. And then for Return of the King, we have Minas Tirith. So you can see the city looking out, hopefully at a very hopeful sunrise. So those are all nice books that come in that box set. And I've been able to take those out and read them and look at the maps and enjoy them. So anyway, I just wanted to share some of the different versions of Lord of the Rings that have been out there for years. It's really fun to look at all the different maps, to look at all the different artwork, and kind of see, which one do you connect with? Like, typically it's going to be the first one that you read, but like with these new books, I really enjoy sort of the larger size maps. That's been fun. One thing I would really like to do is get a good book on Tolkien, a good biography. I mean, I know somewhat his story. I think I probably have sort of the Wikipedia version, but I would really love to find a good biography of Tolkien. So if you have a good recommendation, please share it. I'd love to find out, more about him and how he accomplished this feat of writing Lord of the Rings. So that's it for now. I'll be back pretty soon. I've got a few books that I'd like to review, including The Female Man by Joanna Russ. So if you're interested in that, tune back in, and thanks for watching.